Hello guys, and welcome to episode 19 of the How to Make an RPG in Unity tutorial series. In today's episode, we're going to start creating some player stats, so in the next episode we can start adding some armor and some other systems that will, like a perk system, if you ever played Fallout. So yeah, today we're just going to create a basic stat system, set everything up so that in the next episode we can proceed. So today what we're going to do is we're just going to create some basic UI for this for the stat system. So we're going to have a new player stats panel, and we're also going to code it so that you can adjust the values and attach everything to the designated bars, stat bars, or stat UI. So yeah, let's get started on that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to create a new panel. Also, I don't know why I created a canvas in the player. Let me actually just go into our inventory system. So if we turn this on, what I was thinking is we can add a button here. So we can add a button here. Obviously, the UI, you guys can do whatever you want with it. My UI will be completely different from yours. I'm not a very good UI designer, so you guys can make your own UI. But basically, I'm gonna add a button here, and this button will lead us to the stats system. So basically, it's gonna say stats, and yeah, let's just rename this button to be stats. So stats, and also let's make this button black to match the rest of this UI. Of course, you guys can make the color theme whatever you want. None of this is a must-do. This is just a guide for how you can make your own RPGs. So yeah, so I created a stat button, and basically we're just going to create some new panels now. We're not going to put it under the inventory system. We're actually going to have just a new panel. So we're just going to press UI and then panel. We're going to scale it down and move it like so. Oops, I don't know why I did that. Okay, scaled well enough to match that. And I'm just gonna rename this to be stats panel. And then we're also gonna just duplicate this, and we're gonna move it here. And basically, one side will kind of be like the stats panel, and the other side will like display kind of like what that stat is. I'm planning on making this screen like a kind of like a area for like achievements and statistics, and player statistics, like health. Maybe like we can have like a perk system or whatever. So yeah, so let's rename this to be a set other than stats panel. We can call it description panel. Descriptions panel. And then yeah, so now what we can do is we can just make these black, completely black, and turn the alpha way up. So there we go. Now we can just do the same here. Okay, so yeah, so now what we can do is we can come into the stats panel, we can create a new UI and create a text mesh pro, and I'm just gonna call this auto size it, of course, so it fits. And we can just call this like player stats. Let me see how it looks in game. Obviously it doesn't look really good. You guys can edit the UI. I'm just not going to. So yeah, let's just make this smaller. And yeah, so basically I'm just gonna rename this to title, and let's start making some stats. So I don't know what stats you guys would want, but I'm going to create some basic stats for now. So I'm going to create I'm going to delete that. I'll create an empty first. So let's create an empty. And we'll call this stats. Actually, we might have a lot of stats, so we're probably going to do something called, oops, I don't know why I did that. We're probably going to add something called the scroll rect. So I'm just going to press game object UI, and I'm going to add a scroll view. Not a scroll rect, scroll view. And I'm just going to drag this out. Yeah. So now we can rename this to be just like stats, and we can drag it under here in the stats panel, and we're just going to remove the vertical or the horizontal bar scroll bar because we obviously don't need that. So we can just delete this, and then for this scroll bar, we can set the alpha as none so the player can't see it. And then if you guys like the scroll wheel or scroll bar, then feel free to keep it in, but I'm not going to. So I'm just also going to delete it, or not delete it, but turn down the alpha for that. And inside the content, I'm going to just start putting some text. So the first text is going to be, actually what we can do is we can add a vertical layout group. So vertical layout group. So this will auto format everything for us. So if I duplicate this, you can see everything will be like auto formatted. So vertical layout group, I think that looks pretty good. So I'm just gonna make this smaller and auto size it. And then I think that looks pretty good. Probably should be smaller than the title though, so I'm just gonna make it like so. And I'm gonna call this like health 10 out of 100 or something like that. We'll have the script that controls what goes on there, so we can call this health stat. And then over here in content, we can make the spacing for each item to be like, let's say 5. And we can just duplicate this health stat, and we can call this armor stat. So, and then we can change this from health to armor. And then we can duplicate this, and then we can call this saturation stats. We can change this to be saturation, and then duplicate it again. And then we can say, like, let's go on to some like perks. We can say like strength stat, and then we can say strength. And obviously, I guess strength will be something like that increases your damage. I guess. Obviously, each weapon that we have in the game will do a different amount of damage in the future. But it already does, because you can create new weapons right now and change its damage value. But right now the player doesn't know they do different damages because there's no indication of it doing different damage amounts. So we're probably going to create like a description or like a tool what is it called, like a tool key or something like that, where like if you hover over something, like we'll make one of those in the future. So let's duplicate this again, and we can call this like, I'm just gonna rip off Fallout right now, and I'm just gonna say charisma stats. I'm just gonna rip off Fallout right now. I don't know what charisma will do yet. We might make like dialogue like an important part of the game later on. But so let's also make like an agility stat. Agility. Whoops. Here, agility. And we can duplicate this again. We can say, what other stats are there? Endurance. I guess this will dictate how long you can run. And then we can duplicate it one more time, and we can make, should luck be I don't think luck should be a stat. I think charisma, endurance, agility, what else should there be? I forgot all the Fallout stats, I haven't played in so long. Intelligence. There we go. How big brain you are. So we can rename this to be intelligence. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Obviously you guys can change these stats if you don't like them. Like you can make like whatever stats you want, like stealth or whatever. I'm just gonna call these this, and in the future we'll be modifying these specific stats to fit with the gameplay. So so let's create a new script, and basically this will be actually first, we don't want to create a new script yet. We want to go into the UI manager and make sure that we can actually change between our different areas in our UI. So I think, okay, the stats button shouldn't be there because this should be like a separate thing. So okay, so we got stats, and we can like move this down, and we can rename this to be, instead of the stats button, we can make this the inventory button. inventory button. Inventory. There we go. And we can just rename this text to be inventory. And now we can go into our UI manager and we can drag in our newly created stat system. Okay, so that's a lot of code. I don't remember. I don't even remember writing all of this. But anyways, we're gonna create a public game object. What is it called? It's called public inventory game object stats panel. And then we can create a public void. Public void. Click on this stats. We're just going to the stats panel. Set active true. And inventory panel. Inventory system. Set active false. And we can just duplicate this. Instead of click on stats, we can have click on inventory and just interchange these from false to true and true to false. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And now we just have to go back into Unity, wait for it to compile, and UI manager, so we can drag in our stats panel. Just gonna make sure, yeah, the inventory system is good. Okay, so right here, and in the inventory button, we're just going to, right here, we're just going to add an on-click function, drag in the UI manager, and to click on inventory right here. And for stats, we can just create a new one. I'm also going to drag this beside inventory, just so I know where they are in the future. Because yeah, it's going to get confusing once we have a lot of items in the canvas. We can just make this click on stats. And yeah, now we can deactivate the inventory system as well as the stats system, stats panel. And also, actually, I think, okay, we're going to have to go into our script and we're going to have to make it so that when we click on tab, we also activate our stats and inventory buttons. So we can create a new empty and we can call this navigation buttons, and we can drag these two down into here. And inside our navigation, we're going to create a new game object for our navigation button. So public buttons. And then we can say here, navi button set active, not inventory, or navi button set active. And also when we press tab, right, so okay, so right now if we go into our scene and I'll just show you guys, and we can drag in our navigation buttons and we can just set this as not active anymore. So okay, so I'll show you why this system is not going to be working. So we click stats and we click inventory. You can see here when I press tab, the inventory system doesn't disappear. Well, the scroll bar works, so that's pretty nice. But unfortunately, when we press tab, if we're in the stat system, it's not going to work. Our stat system will close. So let's see. Another thing I want to fix is there's this, like this at the bottom. There's this it's just bothering me. How it's not fitting completely in. So I'm gonna create like a bottom padding so that it doesn't go off. But yeah. So now what we can do is we can check here. So if inventory or stats active self, you know what we can do actually? Yeah, okay, so instead of all of this, we can create a bigger empty, so we can say public UI empty, and then we can just say, instead of changing all of these, we can just say UI empty UI empty dot set active dot active UI empty dot active self. Yeah, and then we can just change this to UI empty. Oops, I hate it when Unity does that, or when Visual Studio does that. Yep, just copy this, or actually no, we're good. Okay, yeah. So just copy all of this. Or no. Yeah. Okay, so we can just delete this now. Because we don't really need it because in the script anymore. And we're just going to create a big empty. This is going to be called like UI empty. And we can drag the buttons, the stats panel, and the inventory system in here. And then we can go into our UI manager, drag this in, and now we're done. So if we press tab, right, okay, so these need to be, so there needs to be, these two need to be default active. Okay, but the UI empty can't be default active. Okay, so there we go. So now if we press stats, oh, I think, oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so, right, okay, this is still bothering me. Do you see how the text is there? Oh my god. But yeah. Yeah, so it pretty much works now. I wonder though if I pick up an item and if I drag it into my inventory and I drag it out and I click on stats, I'm still gonna have it in my inventory. That's funny, but it's not like we can really do anything with it. So okay, yeah, I think that's okay. Oh, okay, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so this pretty much works. Yeah, so now what we're going to pretty much do is we're just going to make it so that these actually display something instead of displaying nothing. And so how we're going to do that is we're going to go into player data and we're just going to create a bunch of text instances. So we can just say header stats text, and then yeah, down here we can just create a bunch of public text pro UI health text, and we just duplicate this like 50 times, and then let's see what we have. So we have stats panel, okay, so we have health, armor, then we have saturation, and then we have strength, and then we have charisma, agility, and endurance. So charisma and intelligence, agility, endurance, and charisma. So yeah, so we have intelligence text here, so it works now. And yeah, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're just going to we're gonna create some new player stats. So we can say here, well, we already have max saturation and current saturation, so we can just say armor. Yeah, so we can just say public floats armor stats. And we can just create another public float for strength stats. We can create another public float for charisma stats, and we can create another public float for agility stats, and another one endurance stats, and another float for intelligence. And yeah, so we can create a new function. So I will say public void update stats, and in UI manager what we can say is inside of our we reference player data, so we can just say in here, whenever we press tab, we're just gonna update the data. So data dot update stats. So yeah, so now if we go into Unity, or not Unity, Visual, player data Visual Studio Script, we can just say, text is equal to, because it's out of a certain value, so we can just say current health plus create this backslash and plus max health dot toString. I'm just going to type toString f0 just to make sure that formatting is correct. You can never be too sure. So we can just put that here, and we can just duplicate this for saturation. So we can say saturation text is going to be equal to saturation current saturation divided by max saturation. And then yeah, now I believe it's just all of these new ones that we have. So we can say armor text is going to be equal to armor stats. I guess that's pretty much it. Dot toString f0. And yeah, now we can just duplicate this. So just duplicate this a lot. And then instead of armor text here, we can just say not saturation text, strength text. And we can say here strength stats. And then we can have charisma text. So charisma text. And then charisma stats. And then agility, endurance, and intelligence. I think I made too much this time. Agility. Agility text. Endurance text. And intelligence text. Can't spell intelligence. Okay, there we go. So now instead of armor stats, we can just say intelligence stats. Intelligence, endurance stats, and agility stats. Okay, so how many do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There should be 8 here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, so we got it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Because the values are default at 0, you're gonna see a bunch of zeros, but that's okay. Now we press tab. Okay. I realized we made a fatal mistake. We did not drag everything in the inspector. So you can see here there's a bunch of, oh no, not there. Where was it? Right here. Okay. We have a bunch of items we need to drag in. So health text, health is right here. Armor stats. Yep. Saturation. Strength. Charisma. And I guess charisma will be, I don't know what we can do for charisma. Maybe we can have like tree dialogues in the future, because our player doesn't really talk. So yeah, I don't know what we're gonna be doing with charisma. Maybe we can create like special dialogue for the player. If they have a certain amount of charisma, they can like skip quests or get free money or something like that. But yeah. Okay, so UIMT. We have to disable this, and we have to disable, or no, we have to enable it. Not bad. No, actually, we don't. We have to disable the stats panel. We also have to disable the UIMT. So now, when we press play, it should work. So we press stats. Oh, no, I made another fatal mistake. We forgot to add everything here. So, I have to say, help. And then, yeah, so we forgot to label everything, so we just have to type this down. Saturation, armor. Oh, I remember what it's called now, tooltips. So we're gonna make tooltips in the future under each weapon, so it tells you, or in each item, so it tells you exactly what it does and gives you like a short little blurb of what that specific item does. So agility, endurance, intelligence, and yeah, so that's pretty much it. And now we can just press play and everything should work. So that's, yep, we have everything working. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.